Hello, my name's Phil Dolman and I'm going to teach you a great old song called When I Take My Sugar to Tea. It goes like this. When I take my sugar to tea, all the boys are jealous of me, 'cause I never take her where the gang goes. When I take my sugar to tea, I'm a rowdy dowdy, that's me. She's a hi-hat baby, that's she. I never take her where the gang goes. When I take my sugar to tea. Every Sunday afternoon we forget about our cares, rubbing elbows at the Ritz with those millionaires. When I take my sugar to tea, I'm as ritzy as I can be, 'cause I never take her where the gang goes. When I take my sugar, when I take my sugar, when I take my sugar to tea. When I Take My Sugar to Tea, a great little song by Pierre Norman, Sammy Fain and Irving Cajal. And there's a link in the description below where you can download a chart to go with this. So go down there now, click that link and either print out or get that up on your screen so you can join in with me. On that chart, you'll see that we've got quite a lot of boxes at the top, and those boxes are just bars of music. Each one is a count of 4. And if we have 2 chords in a box, then we do 1, 2 on the first chord and the count of 3, 4 on the second chord. We split it in half. Other things I should explain is that at the end of the second line of the chart, we have a little number 1, and then at the end, a colon and 2 vertical lines. Well, that's me trying to do a musical repeat sign. So that little number 1 means we play all of this. The first time round, we play this little bar. Then the repeats take us back to the beginning. We play it all again. But then when we get to that bit where the number 1 is, it isn't the first time anymore. So instead, we play the bar below it that has a little number 2. And that conveniently has no repeats at the end. So we've sort of bunny hopped over the repeats the second time round, and we can carry on and play the rest of the song. So we're going to play that first bit twice with 2 slightly different endings. Then we've got the shaded part, which is the middle bit of the song, which is also in italics on your lyrics. And then the last little bit is just the same as the first bit, and then we've got an ending. So let's have a look at that first section of the song. We start off with an F, then we go to an F sharp diminished 7, and if you've ever played any diminished 7 chord, sometimes you will just see them called diminished chords. Not quite the same thing, but that's often what people mean when they write diminished. They mean diminished 7. That shape is the shape we use for all of them. We can slide it around and play all of them. We want it at the 2nd and 3rd frets here. Then a C7. Now, you can play this one finger C7 if you like, that old familiar one, but I've also given you a bar chord C7 at the 3rd fret there. And that's because I think this little bit of the tune at least sounds better climbing up, rather than going that on the top. Just doesn't flow as nicely, but you can use that one if you want. So we have those 3 chords, and I'm going up to that C7 bar at the 3rd fret. Then we do them again. Then on the second line we have a D7. I'm playing the bar D7, but if you want to play that 2 open D7, whichever one you know, that's fine. Then we have G minor 7 to B flat minor 6. 2 in the same bar. Now this sounds like it's going to be really hard, but G minor 7 is a 2-finger chord, though you do have to hold 2 strings with your index finger and then put your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the C string. But then B flat minor 6, that 2nd finger comes off and the 1st finger covers 3 of the strings. So we leave the G string open and the other 3 all at the 1st fret. So we just really have to take off our 2nd finger and slide our 1st finger across a bit. That's our B flat minor 6. And then we finish it off with an F, a C7, and this time I'm just going to use the bog standard C7 from down there. And then back to an F. This is our first time ending, and another C7. So the first section of the tune goes like this. D7, G minor 7, B flat minor 6, F, C7, first time ending. Then we go back to the top and do all that again. But this time it's not the first time. So we're not going to play the first time ending, we're going to play the second time ending, which is F, F7. You've got a diagram for F7 down the bottom there. That F7, unlike the first time round, where the first time ending sort of made us feel like we wanted to go back to the beginning again. Like that. This one makes us feel like we want to go somewhere else, which is the B flat chord that starts the bridge of the tune. That's what we call that bit in the middle that we've got shaded and in italics there. That's the bridge, and that starts on a B flat, and the percentage mark in the next bar just means keep doing what you were doing in the previous bar. It just helps the chart look a little bit less cluttered and easier to read. So we have B flat for a bar, and another one. Here's a fun thing, E flat 9. Don't be scared, you already know it. It's exactly the same shape as we just used for a B flat minor 6. Why is one called one thing and one called the other? Context. The first one, the B flat minor 6, was really a B flat minor chord that I dressed up a bit to make into a B flat minor 6. This one really should be an E flat 7 chord that I've dressed up a bit to make into an E flat 9. And when you start dressing up chords and you've only got 4 strings available, you'll find you end up with the same shape over and over again. But I've given them different names because other people you might be playing with need to know, particularly bass players, because they need to be thinking about the note they're going to play underneath this chord. So even though they've got different names, it's the same shape. So far we have B flat, another B flat, then the E flat 9, which is just the same as the B flat minor 6 shape, then an F, then a G7, then a D flat 7 to a C7. What's a D flat 7? Well, if you know a D7, that barred D7, which you might have already played in the first section of this tune, instead of barring it at the 2nd fret, do it at the 1st fret. And now that becomes a D flat or a C sharp 7. I'm calling it a D flat 7 here, but you might also see that called a C sharp 7 in some songs. And the next chord is a C7, so don't move your fingers, just slide down till your index finger falls off the end, and now you're playing that basic one finger C7, but you're playing it with your 2nd finger. So the bridge goes like this: B flat, B flat, E flat 9, E flat 9, F, G7, D flat 7, C7. And now you've learnt most of the song, apart from that ending, because then we go back to F, F sharp diminished, C7 again, just like the first bit. And again, and D7, G minor 7, B flat minor 6, and there I've got an asterisk on this F. And that's because from this point on the chart, this is our big finish. But you might not want to finish the song yet. So if you don't want to finish and you want to go round and do it again, and if you're playing in a band, that's an opportunity to go round again and let some people take solos and just extend the song and make a bigger performance of it. If you don't want to finish yet, when you get to that F with the asterisk, just play the last 2 bars that we had on the 2nd line. So just the ones that went F, C7, and then the first time ending, F, C7. And that will set you up to go back to the top and do it as many times as you want. A bit like this. I never take her where the band goes when I take my sugar to tea. Back to the top. Da, 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 da. Instrumental solos or whatever you want to do. But when you come to the very end and you want to have that big finish, just keep playing the chart, keep following the lyrics at the bottom. So when we get there, never take her where the gang goes when I take my sugar. Another F. A B flat 9, which is a bit of a fancy sounding chord, but you've got a diagram for it there. You can either bar it like this, like a B flat 7, and add this finger, but I quite like to play it with 4 individual fingers. It's just like that diminished 7 chord shape we had, only now it's at the 1st fret, and then we just stick out our little finger to the 3rd fret. So we have 1st fret, 2nd fret, 1st fret, 3rd fret. And we have 2 bars of that. And then we have a G9, which is just a fancified G7, and we're going to play that up here. 4, 5, 5, 5. So my index finger's on the 4th fret of the G string, and all of the others are in the 5th fret. 1 bar of that one. C9, which is exactly the same shape as the B flat 9 we had there just a moment ago, but instead of at the 1st fret, it's at the 3rd fret. And then an F chord to finish, and you could finish with a basic F down there, or if you wanted to, you could finish with an F chord up here. This is the 5th fret bar, and this is the 8th fret with my little finger. And I did a little thing called the Count Basie ending. I've got a lesson on the Count Basie ending, and I'll put a link for that, so if you want to add it on the end, you can. That was this bit. The whole ending part will sound like this. From the D7 in that last little verse, 'cause I never take her where the gang goes when I take my sugar. When I take my sugar. When I take my sugar to tea. And then if you wanted to, something like that on the end. Now here's a little note as well on the rhythm playing here, because when we're playing a lot of these swing jazz songs, the kind of strum we often do on the ukulele, like, you know, the island strum, it doesn't really work with a lot of these jazz songs. Really, we want to just hear the beats 1, 2, 3, 4 as downstrokes. So all I'm doing, now I'm strumming with my thumb, but you can do it with your finger, that's absolutely fine. I'm just doing this. Down, 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 down. Very occasionally, I might do a very quick up. So I might go down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. Right before the next down, but only now and again. The thing is, jazz music was meant to be danced to. So the dancers needed to hear that solid beat really clearly. But a thing we can do to try and bring it to life a little bit more is we can make beat 1 and beat 3 a bit quieter, and beat 2 and 4 a little bit louder. And we can do that by strumming, instead of all the way across the strings, just hitting maybe 1 or 2. I'll do it with my finger as well, just to show you. Just a little strum that catches maybe a couple. Don't worry about how many, just make sure it's a smaller strum. Then we do a strum that covers all of the strings. Then a little one, then a big one. So we get little, big, little, big. There's not a massive difference between them, but it's just enough that we can hear that pulse on beats 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do it with my thumb, works both ways. And that way, and the other thing I'm doing, as well as that making it bounce nicely, the other thing I'm doing is that I'm releasing my left hand pressure when I've finished playing the chord. So it stops the chord. Now it doesn't work on every chord, because if you've got open strings, they'll carry on ringing. But all I'm doing is I'm putting my fingers down on the chord, and then as I strum, I put a little bit of pressure on with my left hand thumb to make it go from, I'm not pressing down. My fingers are in place, but I'm not pressing down. I just do a little pulse with my left hand thumb, and then immediately take that pressure off, and the chord stops. So I end up being able to do this. As I strum, I twitch my left hand thumb, rather than. That's another reason why some of these chords that are bar chords or 4-finger chords are really good for this kind of playing, because I can control all of the strings. Whereas if I'm playing this C7, it's a bit difficult to control it. Whereas this one, much easier. So you can play around with that, but don't get too worried about the rhythm. Just keep time and keep those downstrokes on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can't go far wrong. It's a really fun little song. There's some great recordings that you can find on YouTube by people like Nat King Cole, and one of my favourites, the fantastic Leon Redbone. If you've enjoyed this lesson, as well as hitting that like button and subscribing, which really helps me, you might be interested in my Patreon page, where I have over 300 lessons a bit like this. Some easier, some much harder, all covering jazz, blues, country and folk, and also some technique and theory lessons as well. That costs £7.50 a month, and there's a new lesson added every single week. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.